We live in an era of fraud in America, not just in banking, but in government, education, religion, food, even baseball.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to continue looking at the Tesla short sellers, this time focusing on Steve Eisman. Now, Steve is a little bit different to me than the previous shorts we've discussed. Most of you will probably know him from the movie The Big Short, which rightly portrayed him as a man of decent moral character and also a savvy investor. The difference between Steve and other Tesla short sellers is that I actually have a fair bit of respect for Steve. I think he's a smart guy, and I don't really think he had any hidden agendas or ulterior motives for his advice on Tesla stocks. He was just making the bets that he thought would pay off. And if anybody can spot a good short, it should be him, right? Well, we're going to take a deeper dive into what exactly he was saying about Tesla back in 2018, and spoiler alert, this time it was Steve who was wrong. But before we get into that, I think it's a good idea to address the hit to Tesla stock that came just yesterday, February 24th, 2020, and that has continued into today. And I know that this is going to be on some of your minds as you watch this video, so I want to be crystal clear about what it means for this discussion. As many will be aware, the coronavirus outbreak in China has shut down many entire cities, which obviously has a big impact on their ability to produce goods, which in turn of course affects the global market. Tesla is hit particularly hard by this because Tesla's future growth has been tied heavily to the Chinese market and the performance of its Shanghai factory. This is a serious issue, perhaps worthy of its own video. But we need to be clear that this has absolutely nothing to do with any of the reasons that short sellers have been short on Tesla for years. Mark Spiegel and Gordon Johnson didn't predict coronavirus, and neither did Steve Eisman. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about shorts over the past several years. Even if Tesla is taking a hit right now due to very unfortunate circumstances, the people who were short back in 2018 were still wrong, and they still lost their money. And most importantly, this recent hit doesn't represent or suggest a failure on the part of Tesla. It's just bad luck. Hopefully it'll blow over soon, and that's all I can really say. Keep in mind that Tesla shares are still up over 300% in the past 6 months. So back to Eisman. In 2018, he came out bearish on Tesla, and we're going to take a look at his arguments for why and try to see where he might have went wrong in his thinking.
What is the Tesla value and stock value through the Eisman prism?
I don't see the value in Tesla. We're short Tesla. Look, Elon Musk is a very, very smart man, but there are a lot of smart people in this world, and being smart's not enough. You got to execute.
So right away we see Steve sort of going for Elon Musk the person, rather than praising Elon by saying he's a real smart man. He's more so just conceding the fact. As in, sure, Elon Musk is smart, but... And his but is what? That he needs to be able to execute better? Well, we're talking about a guy who runs multiple successful technology startups varying from space travel to underground construction. I think he knows a thing or two about execution. The problem with this criticism is that Steve is just far too vague. It's hard to know what exactly it is about Musk that has alarmed him. My guess is just that Steve thinks Musk's sort of celebrity lifestyle with his Twitter presence and media appearances, ranging from the Joe Rogan Experience to TED Talks, and also maybe his high-profile relationship and breakup with Amber Heard around that time, just, in Steve's eyes, make Musk seem like a liability more than an asset. Needless to say, I see this differently. Musk's prominence in the public eye, even with the mistakes he may or may not have made, has been more of an asset for Tesla than a liability. As I've mentioned in previous videos, a lot of people really like Elon Musk. Some even see him as embodying technological innovation and environmental progress. And more still, see his Twitter activity and sometimes questionable opinions as blunt honesty, or even speaking truth to power. As a figurehead for Tesla, named after the enigmatic genius who many fondly remember as such a character as just described, I think Elon Musk is actually a perfect fit and a valuable asset. But just to cover all our bases, let's look at the years leading up to this interview when Steve Eisman argued for his short position on Tesla and see what we can deduce precisely about Elon Musk's, quote, bad execution. In March of 2016, Musk launched the Model 3 more than 20 months before production was even set to begin. This was an execution mistake, though it made sense from a marketing standpoint. He announced his plans for Tesla to be producing 400,000 Model 3s by the end of 2020, with another 100,000 Model S and Model Xs. This was deemed to be impossible, not only by his regular detractors, but everybody. It was simply too ambitious. In regards to the marketing strategy, however, it actually worked better than intended. Pre-orders soared over 400,000 Model 3s, which essentially meant that prospective customers would have to wait up to 5 years for their car. The takeaway here is that Musk did fail to listen to his more experienced peers, and it put Tesla in a pretty bad spot. But what did Musk do as soon as he saw the demand overshooting the production goals? He devised and introduced an accelerated production plan to begin production 6 months earlier than the already deemed impossible timeline, and set the date that the company would reach 5,000 cars a week to 1 year sooner. He set new ambitious targets which the company, to be honest, never did quite reach, but they did ramp up impressively fast and reach the 5,000 cars per week 6 months ahead of schedule, rather than the 1 year that he ambitiously promised. This was still deemed impossible by many shorts and auto execs alike, yet it was accomplished. So you can mark that as a negative or a positive for Musk, again, sort of just depending on how you want to look at it. Many people actually argue that maybe you can say Musk failed to execute on his most ambitious timeline, but maybe you can say that his ambition drove the company to execute above expectations on their initial goals. Regardless, what you can't say is that Tesla stock tanked in 2018 or 2019, which was Eisman's prediction based on the information he had. So, he was wrong.
And he's got execution problems. I mean, we'll see how his quarter goes, but you know, his negative cash flow, as you said, he's building cars in a tent, and
Right.
he's nowhere in autonomous driving as far as I can tell, and big competition is coming in his space next year.
So here Steve makes 3 points, which we'll quickly dissect in order. First, he mentions Tesla's negative cash flow, which for money men like Eisman is always a red flag. And it's true that Tesla was operating with negative cash flows around this time, and basically for its entire existence leading up to this point, so it's a fair concern. But it's only really a problem if the company can't execute on their production and delivery goals, since that's where all their cash flow was tied up. It's not like they were just blowing through money with nothing to show for it. And as we just saw, they largely did execute on those production goals and delivery goals, and Tesla achieved a positive cash flow for Q3 2018, which was reported just a few months after this interview with Steve Eisman. Tesla continued to have volatility on this metric, but ultimately the negative cash flow trend has been reversed, and most quarters the company is now reporting a positive cash flow, finishing strong in 2019, which certainly helped lead to the current run-up. Steve then claims that Tesla is, quote, nowhere in autonomous driving, which I think is just a failure to understand the industry. In 2015, Tesla turned on its autopilot suite of capabilities. At the time, it was the most capable set of semi-autonomous features that were commercially available. We can get incredibly deep into the weeds on this topic, and I suggest reading this article written by Michael Bernard for Clean Technica if you want heavier technological and scientific details, but to give a broad overview, there are basically 2 main factors which made Tesla the market leader at the time. First is the approach. So there are 2 ways generally to go about building an autonomous vehicle with an onboard AI. One way is the subsumption approach, which relies on direct input from surrounding objects and landscapes as predefined by the program. So a sort of dumb AI that can only operate within a defined space, but that does so very well. Another way is called the full worldview approach, in which the AI can use a bit of brain power to plot its own course, then reliably and safely make its way there. Much of Tesla's competition only focused on one of these approaches, while Tesla did both. The second factor is that Tesla was in a market largely on its own. While, quote, competitors were developing autonomous vehicles at the time, they were mostly doing it for things like autonomous taxis and deliveries, not private vehicles. So a taxi or delivery system requires different software and additional expensive systems and sensors on board to operate completely autonomously, while Tesla cars can cut a lot of these costs and still deliver a vehicle that operates autonomously 90+% of the time. These are different markets, and anyone comparing them might just be failing to recognize that. And this leads us into Steve's third point about the infamous and scary competition that was supposed to be coming. This is a point I touched on in my videos about Mark Spiegel and Gordon Johnson, so I don't want to overdo it here, but the main point to make is that Tesla only continued to increase its market share and virtually all of its competitors faced unforeseen hurdles, which has left them lagging behind to this day. I think we can fairly say that Steve's short position on Tesla comes down to much of the same reasoning as everyone else who was short. It was a bet against Musk. Having a bias against him as a person rubbed off on the company, and in turn colored the lens through which they viewed all the things we've spoken about in this video, and ultimately led to them having a negative perspective. They could have been right, as even Musk himself has said that the company has been close to complete failure multiple times. But they weren't. They were wrong. And I guess I just like telling people when they're wrong.
Now, anyone who knows me knows that I have no problem telling someone they're wrong.
So thanks for watching, guys. It really helps out the channel if you hit the like and subscribe buttons. So if you want to continue seeing videos like this, please do that now. And I will see you in the next one.
I mean, the thing that I think is interesting about Tesla from the negative perspective is just that the company has lost an enormous number of executives over the last 2 years. And I mean, we'll see. Maybe he pulls a rabbit out of the hat and gets the company going better, but so far, the jury's out.